In preparation for our exhortation, our exhorting brother has asked us to read Psalm 27, the entire chapter. Psalm number 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my stronghold, my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evil men advance against me to devour my flesh, when my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then will I be confident. One thing I ask of the Lord, this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. For in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his tabernacle and set me high upon a rock. Then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surround me. At his tabernacle will I sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Hear my voice when I call, O Lord. Be merciful to me and answer me. My heart says of you, seek his face. Your face, Lord, I will seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my helper. Do not reject me or forsake me, O God, my Savior. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Teach me your way, O Lord. Lead me in a straight path because of my oppressors. Do not turn me over to the desire of my foes, for false witnesses rise up against me, breathing out violence. I am still confident of this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Our exhorting brother today is our brother Matthew Williams. The title is Being Brave. Brother Matthew.
Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see me? Okay. So I'm going to start off this morning by asking a question. Who in here appreciates technology? What it does for us? How useful it is? Every one of you raising your hands, stop. Because technology is evil. I had written my talk. I usually do it on my iPad just because I like to be organized, have it right in front of me, and it's easy to just look up. And this morning I'm getting ready, looking back over, reviewing everything I have, and I open up the notes where the exhortation was, and it's missing. And I couldn't find it. And so I was like, well, all right, we're going to have to go in there. And it's kind of ironic because my talk is being brave, and this is the bravest thing I've ever had to do. So bear with me. I have everything in here and in here. I just need to find it all, get it all sorted out. So just give me a minute. And, I'll still find a way to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So being brave. The reason I'm doing my talk this morning on being brave is because these past few weeks, I've been thinking a lot about school, a lot about college. I start tomorrow. It's my first day. It's COD. It's community college. It's small, but for me, it's not so small. It's a big step. It's a big thing that I'm doing in my life, and I'm moving on. And, I've been going to Glenbard the past 4 years, Glenbard North, and tomorrow I'm not going to be stepping back into a familiar place. I'm going to be stepping into COD with people I've never met. Maybe I'll see familiar faces, but nonetheless, I'm extremely scared, and I'm taking a step into the unknown. And for a while now, it's ever since really I've gotten back from my diabetes camp, that's all that's been on my mind is school. It's just been there. It's been lingering in the back of my mind, things that I've had to get done, buying books, trying to get my classes in order. I can tell you that my parents and I are just, we're tired because we've just been dealing with it for a really long time. And so I really wanted to talk about something that would help me. The last time I was up here, I talked about burdens and how I felt like giving exhortations was a burden. But this time, the funny thing is I feel the complete opposite. This talk is, for me, it's going to help me sum up that courage that I need to step into COD tomorrow. So the reason that I had us open with Psalm 27 was because that whole chapter is talking about how God is our light and our salvation. It says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" So I found that opening with that was very comforting. That whole passage made me feel like I had something to look onto and something that, a little kind of a backbone, something that I could read and say, okay, just look to God. You don't have to be afraid. You can look to God. I can look to my parents, to my friends here, everyone here. And then I started thinking about people in the Bible who were brave, who had to take big steps and leaps into their unknown. A lot about being brave, though, is it's not just being brave. You also have to have a lot of faith. It's a matter of faith, too. So when it comes down to faith, I have a good example and a bad example. Jonah is a bad example because Jonah was told by God to go to Nineveh to preach to the people. And Jonah was fearful because the people in Nineveh were very bad people and he didn't want to go. So he completely went the opposite direction, disregarded what God said, but he ended up getting punished for it. So Jonah's fear, if he had just prayed to God, just asked for God to help him, he would have been fine. He could have gone to Nineveh, he could have preached, he would have been okay. But because of running, and he took it out of God's hands and put it into his own hands. And that's the first mistake. You have to leave it in God's hands. So Jonah was then punished for it, and he got swallowed by the whale. So Jonah's not such a good example for being brave. He should have just looked to God. But a good example would be Daniel. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, but he had complete faith that God would get him out of the lion's den. And that's what happened. Nothing happened to him in the lion's den. So both were on each end of the spectrum, good and bad for having faith. So let's turn to Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Joshua 1:9. "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Just another verse that I find comfort in. I know that for me, when I have difficult things come up in my life, whether it's relationships or school or whatever I'm dealing with, being a teenager, you don't want to tell anybody. You don't want anyone knowing that you have a problem. It's weird, if anyone in this room can relate with me, the teenagers, it's not something you want the world to know about. But when it gets to a certain point, you get fearful and then you look towards other people. But this whole week I've just realized that if you look to God, it's the best way to go. That's just what you have to do. You just have to pray. So that's a thing that I just find comfort in. So with that, I'm going to look up Ruth 1, verses 1 through 18. All right. "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. And a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Malon and Kilian. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judea, and went to Moab and lived there. Now, these are some hard names. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Malon and Kilian also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on a road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you have shown to your deed and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud and said to her, We will go back with you to your people. But Naomi said, Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have any other husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight, then gave birth to sons. Would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me. At this they wept again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, Don't urge me to leave you, or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So, in this account, this was a very big step of being brave, or a big step of courage for Naomi, because she loses her husband, both of her sons marry these 2 women, and then both her sons die. So she has 2 daughters-in-law, and she doesn't really know how to, deal with that, because she's lost her close family. So she tells them to go back, but yet both of them refuse at first. Then Orpah decides to go, but Ruth clung to Naomi. It says Ruth clung to Naomi. So this was a very, very big step for